Alright, so you've been eyeing the iPhone 16 Pro, but all you've seen are the negative reviews, and at the back of your mind you're like, does it really outshine the iPhone 15 Pro, or is Apple just trying to blanket everything with the word new when describing the iPhone 16 Pro features?
iPhone 16 Pro has a stunning new design.
Well, in this video, I take you through all the features between the iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 16 Pro. From camera upgrades to the battery improvements, a faster chip, subtle design tweaks, but at the end of it all, you'll find out if this new release is actually worth your hard-earned cash or if sticking with the 15 Pro is the smarter move, but the answer may not be what you expect. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Brian Randera, and over here we create tech, design, and productivity content, and if that's your jam, buckle up and let's go for the ride. Starting with the area that got the most changes, the camera. Design-wise, the 16 Pro carried on with a 3-stack triangular layout we saw on the 15 Pro, but under the hood is where the main differences are, as well as an additional button on the 16 Pro we'll talk about a little later. Just to bring you up to speed with the camera specs, the 15 Pro has a 48 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a 12 megapixel telephoto camera. The 16 Pro on the other hand has a newly improved 48 megapixel fusion camera, a new 48 megapixel ultra wide camera, as well as an improved 12 megapixel telephoto camera with a 5x zoom. Alright, so for those of you who are like, what the hell is even a fusion camera? What essentially happens is your phone snaps two photos, and one area focuses on detail, the other one focuses on lighting. Then together they combine, but this isn't actually a new technology when it comes to phone cameras, but in Apple's classic fashion, they're always late adopters. What is new though to the 16 Pro is the new second generation quad pixel sensor, and this explains why when you're snapping photos on the 15 and 16 Pro, shutter lag on the 16 Pro is virtually non-existent. Speaking of photos, when you take them using the ultra-wide camera, they're slightly better, although for the average consumer, you might not see any difference, but for the creators and photographers out there, there's a slight bump in quality, and these two photos show that, more so when you zoom in. The telephoto camera also looks slightly better when you punch in, and as you can see, the 5x on the 15 Pro compared to the 16 Pro is more grainy. When it comes to video, the 15 Pro and 16 Pro are quite close, but what separates the 16 Pro from the 15 Pro are the new features, and starting with the camera control button, a single click will open the camera app, another click will snap a photo, and to take a video, a click and hold will do the magic for you. Now, if you'd ask me, this will take a bit of getting used to, and for those who end up using it, in my reckoning, its use case will end at snapping photos and taking videos. For the creators and filmmakers though, this will come in handy whether you're dialing in the exposure, adjusting the depth of field, picking your preferred photography style, zooming in and out, it's got the whole 9 yards. Compared to the 15 Pro, it doesn't stand a chance, but in saying that, changing the depth of field after the fact is still a handy feature on the 15 Pro, although like mentioned earlier, the use cases for most of the features are very niche given the fact that majority of iPhone purchases are made by the average consumer. Nonetheless, the two use cases that would cut across the average consumer and professionals would be photography styles and tone, and I say that because over the years iPhone photos have copped a lot of slack because of how the photos are usually over-brightened, with contrast taking a hit in the process. So Apple's solution to this is to give the user the flexibility to create a photo that tickles their fancy, hence the introduction of photography styles and tone. Again, compared to the 15 Pro in that regard, the 16 Pro takes the win, although it's not that significant. Speaking of significance, the addition of the audio mix feature is by far the biggest improvement in the camera department in my opinion, obviously because I'm a creator, but for the average consumer, I don't see how this particular use case will be of much help in everyday life. In saying that, the ability to tweak the audio of your video either to standard, in frame, studio or cinematic after the fact without the help of a third-party software is an amazing addition to the creator toolkit. Visual intelligence is also another addition coming to the camera system, and if you'd ask me, it's nothing really astonishing. If you guys remember, we first saw this when the Pixel 8 phones launched early this year, and it's already integrated into your Google browser, otherwise known as Google Lens. Another amazing addition is the ability to shoot 4K at 120 fps. which is an absolute game changer, and the best part is you'll be able to change the frame rate after the fact depending on what you want. Compared to the 15 Pro, which maxes out at 4K 60 FPS, the 16 Pro is definitely better in that regard. Something that hasn't gotten better on both the 15 and 16 Pros is the lens flare issue, and even though the 16 Pro does a slightly better job, it's clearly visible in point and shoot scenarios. When it comes to performance, the 16 Pro is powered by the A18 Pro chip, whereas the 15 Pro is powered by the A17 Pro chip. To put them to the test, over the last 2 weeks I used both of them as my daily drivers, and honestly speaking, the difference isn't that significant. While doing simple tasks like opening apps, the 16 Pro on most occasions came out on top, but in some instances, the 15 Pro took the lead. As for the camera performance, like mentioned earlier, a slightly improved sensor helps reduce the shutter lag when taking photos, but for the most part, they go head to head. I also tested a few mobile games, and as you can see, the 16 Pro loads a lot faster than the 15 Pro, which is obviously because of the 20% increase in speed of the GPU. Coming to the bottom line, the performance difference is not that big, but the one thing to note is the 15 Pro battery has a tendency to heat up when the tasks start piling up, as well as when wirelessly charging, although the latter has been an issue for iPhones for quite a while now. Speaking of the battery heating up on the 15 Pro, the 16 Pro has a new machined chassis that works in tandem with the graphite-clad aluminum substructure, and together they help maximize thermal capacity, resulting in a 20% improvement in sustained performance, which makes CPU and GPU intensive tasks easier to run without the battery overheating. As for the battery size, the 16 Pro bumping the size to 6.3 inches obviously means a bigger battery, and when you throw in the efficiency of Apple Silicon, the 16 Pro's battery lasts longer than that of its predecessor, coming in at 27 hours of video playback compared to the 23 of the previous Gen 15 Pro. When it comes to charging, the 16 Pro got a slight bump in wattage when wirelessly charging, moving up from 15 watts to 25 watts. Something to note though, until third-party suppliers release MagSafe chargers that can support that, you'll have to splurge on the Apple one, then find a charging brick that can dish out 30 watts at the very least. As for wired charging, the 16 Pro also got a bump to 45 watts from the 20 watts we had in the previous Gen 15 Pros, and that pretty much wraps up the battery comparison. As for the design and build quality, right off the bat, one of the first things you'll notice is the slight difference in size, and putting them side by side, the 16 Pro clears the 15 Pro by a few inches. When it comes to the bezels, that's something Apple keeps talking about, but let's be honest, most people probably won't even notice. That aside, by far the most significant change is the build, and the 16 Pro gets a second edition of the titanium chassis, and according to Apple, it's stronger and more scratch resistant than the 15 Pro and all the other phones that jumped on the titanium trend. Now, here's where things get a bit interesting. According to Apple, the texture on the 16 Pro is microblasted, but when you put them side by side with the 15 Pro, the 16 Pro looks slightly vibrant, but other than that, nothing really significant. Talking of significance, here's a change on the build that definitely carries some weight. The 16 Pro has a new machined chassis, and like mentioned when we talked about the battery, it works in tandem with the graphite-clad aluminum substructure to maximize the thermal capacity of your iPhone. When it comes to the display, aside from the increase in size and slimmer bezels, the key new features are the screen's ability to drop to 1 nit of brightness and the introduction of a ceramic shield. Everything else is pretty much the same as what we saw in the 15 Pro. Just to quickly refresh your mind, the 15 Pro screen boasts a 120Hz refresh rate, a Super Retina XDR display, and a wide P3 color gamut, which is the same exact for the 16 Pro, but that 1 nit brightness drop is the key difference between the two displays. If you'd ask me, it's super handy for those early mornings when you don't want to blind yourself with your phone screen. As for Apple Intelligence, most of the features will come to both the 15 and 16 Pro in December. For now, we'll have to contend with a few features, which by the way, you'll have to be running on the developer beta to enjoy. When it comes to how they function, both the 15 and 16 Pro will run them without any issues. The only difference is the 16 Pro will have two ways of going about visual intelligence. Those two ways will be through the camera control button and the main camera interface we've grown accustomed to over the years. If you'd ask me, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. Other than that, there isn't much to say about Apple Intelligence at this point, but I'll be doing a dedicated video once the main features drop. If you'd like a deeper dive into iOS 18 and Apple Intelligence features, check out this video I did a few months back. With all the differences between the iPhone 15 Pro and 16 Pro laid out, it all comes down to this. Are the differences really enough to justify an upgrade to the 16 Pro? I don't think so. But I'll hold that thought for a moment. For those who might say the iPhone 16 Pro brings a bigger display, thinner bezels, a faster chip, a new titanium chassis, let's be honest, the average consumer will most likely not even use those features in their day-to-day life. On the flip side, that new thermal management system and the bumping performance sound exciting, but unless you're a hardcore gamer or constantly push your phone to the limit, those new features may not be the game changers Apple wants you to believe. Oh, and let's not forget about the battery life. Remember, with more power comes more demand. So, does the 16 Pro really have the juice to last all day under heavy use, or do all the additional features level the playing field when it comes to the 16 Pro's battery life? That's something you'll probably want to find out in my day in the life video, which will be dropping soon. That aside, the 15 Pro already does most of the basics so well. In fact, it's still a beast when it comes to performance. The display is among the best in the game, and its camera still beats most flagship phones in the market. So unless you really need those incremental upgrades or absolutely want the latest and greatest, sticking with the 15 Pro might actually be the smarter move, especially when you consider how much you'd be saving. Well, there you have it, peeps. I hope you enjoyed and found this video helpful. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and click the notification bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. To watch the comprehensive review of the iPhone 15 Pro, check out this video. Until then, people of the internet, I'm signing out. See you on the next one.